In bull markets, dips are for buying, and all of these opportunities are amazing chances to get involved with tokens that have been performing strong that are taking dips during this time period. In this video, I'm going to go over the top tokens that I am accumulating during this dip, because just looking at the numbers, and we're going to go through some of the things happening in the market, there is no reason to assume that the market local top is in. I do think we continue to go higher over the coming weeks and months into Q4. And of course, I do think we will see the alt season that we have all been waiting for. It's just going to require a little bit of patience and navigating it correctly along the way. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Before we get into the meat of the content, be sure to drop down below. If you enjoy the content here on the channel, like the video down below and subscribe. It really helps us get in front of more crypto bulls just like yourself who want to win throughout this bull market. And of course, a big shout out to our sponsors here on In the Game. We have some incredible sponsors from 𝗪𝗏, Nexus, as well as 𝗪𝗏𝗃𝗏 and EverReach Labs. And just looking at the offers that 𝗪𝗏 has right now, first and foremost, the feedback we've gotten from you guys are loving utilizing 𝗪𝗏, and you can literally compete to win up to an Omega watch, Apple Vision Pro, and get bonuses on your accounts just by signing up down below to the #1 no KYC centralized exchange down below in the description. And if you want a decentralized exchange option also that does leverage Hyperliquid's technology, you can check out Nexus down below in the description. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it, guys. I am back from a little bit of a Europe trip, and I'm really excited. I feel like the time that I was away, we went through a little bit of that bull market dip that we see every single cycle. Now, we did hit all-time highs about 5 days ago or so at that 123K level, but rejected off of that quite, I would say it was a pretty intense rejection, now sitting at 117K. So really, I missed that little surge, but at the same time, the opportunities in the market really haven't changed. So I'm really happy with, I guess, the timing that I was able to kind of get away for a little bit of a vacation, but now locked back in for the rest of the year and just moving forward in general. And I think, like I said, this market has not had a local top, and there's no reason to assume that this market is going to stop its velocity. Everything is pointing towards more upside. First and foremost, economically, we finally are seeing forecasts for potential rate cuts in September. So this is mid-August if you're watching this video a little later, but in September there is now a 92% chance of rate cuts, which we've already gotten this far with no rate cuts in the market, which is absolutely insane to think about. Just the strength that the asset class of Bitcoin and crypto, major altcoins, have really solidified themselves at this point as a long-standing here to compete with the biggest assets in the world. And we haven't even seen a good economic climate. People, as they say, retail doesn't have the money to kind of come into the market yet, but retail interest is coming back into the space. Altcoin search volume is up. Crypto search volume is up. We are starting to see a little bit of that outside interest. And even myself, I'm finally starting to get a couple of text messages from old friends, high school, college friends that are like, hey, what do you think about this coin? So it is starting to pique the interest of some people outside of the crypto realm, but it's not to the point where your granny's calling you if she should buy some Ethereum or Bitcoin. So we're not near that point in the cycle. And just looking at the data here, if you think ETH and SOL have topped, I would absolutely have to disagree with that. Treasury companies have changed the game, and the demand is too strong. We're seeing Bitcoin treasury companies obviously just continue to scoop up as much Bitcoin as possible. That thesis makes sense. I think any investor in this entire space, I would pivot profits consistently, percentages of profits that you take throughout this bull run. Make sure you're stacking in Bitcoin. I think long-standing, that is the retirement play, and just that will set you up for the future if you play your cards right and have enough Bitcoin. But looking at the ETH and SOL data, companies are also accumulating these at massive rates. We're seeing SharpLink Gaming, obviously the #1 holder of Ethereum now. They hold more than the Ethereum Foundation, and as we see here, they hold 728,000 Ethereum worth over $3.3 billion. And just like Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy, a little bit of a tongue twister there when you say it back to back, but they are just buying literally every single week massive amounts of Ethereum. We're seeing Standard Chartered, which is a massive banking institution, has an ETH forecast of 7,500 by the end of 2025, from 4,000 into 25,000 by 2028. Now that seems crazy, but if the supply shock continues with companies like SharpLink and other institutions also buying ETH, BlackRock's buying ETH, I think that we do go much higher from here. Just looking at the sheer amount of volume and money coming in from the highest levels, I think we're nowhere near the top of this market, which leads me into the best opportunities in the market. Now, I only made one video over the last week or so, which was talking about my 3 top altcoin plays coming up for this next leg up. One of them has been playing out very, very well, which is Hyperliquid. And I still think the thesis here plays out very well. We'll pull up Hyperliquid here on the charts, and just over this monthly time period, even throughout the dips, we saw a market dip during this time period, ever since the rejection of the all-time high. And we're actually seeing numbers go up on the Hyperliquid token for the most part. It is up over the monthly, despite taking this dip all the way down to 35, now back at $46. I think if you're buying spot at 35, that's an amazing opportunity, but I still think the leverage play on Hyperliquid is phenomenal. I think if you just have a managed, very good risk, I'm not a financial advisor, of course, so I would never go say to place a leverage trade, and leverage trades are high risk, but I think at this point at $46, if you're scared to buy spot on Hyperliquid and want to find out a way to have exposure, do a reasonable leverage long, couple X's, whatever the case is, and just ride that up throughout this market, because here is what I see with this. The amount of money coming into Hyperliquid, first and foremost, they did $7.7 million in profit and $29 billion in volume just the other day, which marked a daily new all-time high. Hyperliquid, despite the FUD over the last week or two, whenever they went down during the FOMC meetings, we actually see the strength off of this. Like, buying that FUD was one of the best things you could have done, and we did mention that on this channel. And Phantom is utilizing Hyperliquid. They did $5 billion of volume on Phantom using Hyperliquid over the last 5 weeks. We see protocols like Project X earning more fees of any protocol over Hyper EVM. We talked about this one in the past. I actually have a lot of my Hyperliquid staked over here to make sure I get allocation into a future Hyperliquid airdrop as well. And just the psychology of this token, right? The Hype token makes money when it liquidates people, which sounds insane, right? We never wish for people to get liquidated. But the thesis, the theory behind this I thought this tweet was brilliant, because when you put it in perspective, it is kind of cruel. But at the same time, if you sell it for collateral and get liquidated, the team, Hyperliquid, takes the liquidations, the fees, and then they buy the coin back. They literally just buy Hyperliquid every single day with their revenue, which is an insane proposition. So I think riding this up on a reasonable leverage position, make sure you manage where your liquidation price is. And if you want to set targets, you can set targets for take profits. I've had one open for a little while, and I think this is a great way to play Hyperliquid if you have no spot bags. If you have spot bags, ride those up. I think this is going to be one of the most explosive coins throughout the course of the bull run. Number 2 in that video was Blockstreet. And still to this day, I think the Blockstreet thesis makes so much sense, and it's actually dipped a little bit. When we made that video, we were up here in the ranges of 18, 19 cents. We're at 17 cents right now, $170 million fully diluted market cap, $80 million market cap overall. And this is like an RWA play, but more than that, it is going to be one of the first widespread backed projects by World Liberty Fi and the USD1 stablecoin. And as Miles points out here, he's willing to bet that USD1, which will be Trump's stablecoin, basically, World Liberty Fi stablecoin, that he thinks it'll be a top 3 stable, which would be insane. That would put it with USDT and USDC. And look into the protocols that are building infrastructure for USD1. And I do think the best play for that right now by far is Blockstreet. And this is so early. They only have 8,000 followers on Twitter, really the marketing campaign hasn't begun from the project side here. So I think this is a great opportunity for a top class RWA play, and one of the first USD1 pairs. If you see here, block on Ethereum is paired up with USD1, the stable coin from World Liberty Fi. So I continue to think this is a great buy at this point in the market. The other one I mentioned in that last video before we rattle on to other tokens is KEDA, and we're actually seeing a lot of strength during this time as well, only down 1% despite the market turmoil. This got up to about $1.55 last week. I think we definitely break through those levels and more whenever the market turns back around, and it does remain one of my top infra/DeFi plays in the entire market. But moving on down the ladder, looking at stuff like SUI, TAO, Caspa, some of the ones we talk about quite frequently on this channel, I think they're all pretty good levels right now. SUI under $4, I would consistently be looking at DCAing when I can, and also TAO under 400, as well as Caspa at this 9-cent level. Really, I think this will rip whenever Bitcoin and ETH are just doing crazy numbers, and that hasn't happened to this point where we see Ethereum have that blow off top. That's when we're going to start to see these types of altcoins do very well. But moving on down the ladder here, I've gotten a lot of questions, of course, about what is going on with AVAX and, of course, the black hole ecosystem. So I want to jump into that quickly before I rattle on down to a little more high risk plays when it comes to altcoins. But my top buys right now in the market are the ones we just highlighted. I love Hyperliquid, Blockstreet, KEDA, as well as SUI, TAO, and Caspa. Those are the 6 that I am just really locked in on at this point in the market as far as high level tokens. And of course, you guys know I have a big bag of Avalanche around these levels. If we just look at where AVAX is right now at 23.96, it hasn't been, I mean, if we look at the monthly chart, this did get up to almost, it like eclipsed $27, and it looked like that run was going to begin kind of off the back of the black hole hype. But of course, the black token has not been performing as well as a lot of people predicted it to. Of course, a lot of people were mad whenever this was up here and they missed it. And a lot of people are obviously upset with the downtrend in this token ever since its all-time highs around $1.50. So this one has trended down quite a bit. Of course, the reason being, at this point in the protocol, the utility behind black in a realistic nature is not strong enough to withhold the emission sell pressure. So people are making money every day. And for myself, I still have a lot of liquidity pairs on there. I have Bitcoin AVAX, I have MOG, Black. I have a lot of different LPs on there. And of course, the impermanent loss is not fun whenever it fluctuates. But at the same time, you are in DeFi to earn those emissions and just try to manage those impermanent loss positions as much as possible. During a dip like this with Black, it has not been fun, of course. I do think there will eventually be a resurgence. Just knowing the team, they're going to come up with a big marketing campaign to be able to prop it up. However, I'm looking more at the opportunity of yield at this point in time, get as much as I can in emissions, maybe do a little bit of balancing act of blocking a little bit of my emissions and taking profit, because this is a protocol you need to be taking profit through and through, and not just, keeping all of your emissions in your wallet, because I can tell you the biggest money in this protocol is taking profits every day. But I did like this tweet from the BD of AVAX. All the folks that are shitting on black hole DEX or fighting over which DEX should win, weekly DEX volumes on AVAX are at their highest point since December 2024. For August, they're on track to do $11 billion, which would be their highest month since January of 2022. So overall, black hole has benefited the Avalanche ecosystem tenfold, but in the short term, there's not enough utility to keep that price propped up off the launch hype. I'm hoping it consolidates here around this 40-cent level. That could be a potentially good spot to start building up a position if you've been sidelined at this point. And then I do think the team is smart enough to come up with a good marketing plan and probably prop up the price of this token once again. So that's the update there. I am still yielding off of this platform. I like when some of my bags work for themselves. And at the end of the day, my first buy on this was about 57 cents. So just looking at the price now at about 42 cents, it doesn't hurt as much, but I did keep a lot of my position also from the emissions around $1.50. So that does hurt a little bit. So I'm kind of in the middle ground there. Our initial buys were great. I didn't manage the emissions at the top like I should have. So I'm kind of in that balancing act of where my emissions stand in my current positions. However, I will continue to update you guys what I'm doing as this platform progresses. And of course, if this token does have those catalysts, I think we could see more upside from this, but they need to find a way to make it more balanced between claim and sell over what can I do with it? Is it valuable to lock your tokens, etc. And then overall, I do think AVAX around these levels at about $23 continues to be a very good buy. And moving on to the dark horse of the entire market right now, which is gaming. And yes, crypto gaming, we all know it's been tough. And as me, I was a gaming bull. I am a gaming bull. My thesis really hasn't changed in the long term, but the faults and the failures, the rug pulls over the course of time have really made me consolidate my conviction levels into only a couple of projects. And right now, we've been bullish for a long time on Polis. 𝗓𝗏 just announced one of their biggest announcements to date, where 𝗧𝗥, the identity-linked SVM layer 1 chain from the creators of 𝗓𝗏, every transaction, every on-chain moment, your wallet levels up, your reputation grows. It's kind of like Xbox Live profile built on the blockchain, and the more your reputation builds, the more activity you have, the more your profile builds out. It's this identity layer on top of 𝗓𝗏. They're not moving off of Solana, but I do think this is going to be a very good opportunity. And also, this is an airdrop opportunity. So that is an opportunity, obviously, to earn some free money if you are looking to get involved. If you're already playing around with 𝗓𝗏, some of their mini games and their game modes currently, they say that airdrop season begins in September. So definitely something to keep on your radar. But quietly, even during this market turmoil, there are a couple of gaming coins actually doing really well. And a lot of people wouldn't be talking about this at this point in the market. However, if we just scroll down here and look at stuff like Polis from 𝗓𝗏, up 46% this month. But of course, it's not really going to be touted because gaming is not a sexy niche at this point in the market. But I do think we will see a gaming run, just a matter of time at this point. And then another one that has sneakily been performing well is 𝗥𝗏𝗏, is up. Yesterday, it was up over the daily, the weekly, and the monthly, even at an $18 million market cap. It's hard for a coin that's that small of a market cap to continue its momentum and not get hit by market dips. And I'm really thinking that XBG is loading up for a major end of August and September if this market does turn back around. And look, the interest in gaming from outside capital is still there. GameSquare, one of the biggest NASDAQ listed gaming companies, did scoop up 2.5 million of anime coin. Do I love their selection? No. Would I go buy anime coin off the back of this? No, but it is at least showing us that outside interest still does see the vision in the crypto gaming landscape, but we do just need new iterations. Even stuff with Gunzilla, Off the Grid, they've really fumbled a lot of their things over the course of time, which is hard to really justify, right? They could have launched at a different time. They could have really stimulated the gaming market. The KYC for US investors on their NFTs, a lot of people's NFTs are just trapped in limbo. They're rolling out step by step. The rollout plan just didn't make too much sense to me. Even some of the best teams in the space, like Off the Grid, have not figured it out fully. But I think this thesis will play out when we see that happen in the end. So without, dragging this video on, there's a few narratives, as you see, that I'm big on. Revenue plays like Hyperliquid, infrastructures that are super undervalued right now, like a Blockstreet and a 𝗏𝗏. And yes, I think 𝗏𝗏, even at its market cap, is still very undervalued given what is coming around the corner. I'm still very dialed into my top chain picks, of course, with 𝗬𝗎, Kaspa, and Tau. And then going down that risk curve, I do think that we will see gaming make a run at the end of this cycle. It's going to be one of those things where you're going to see AI pump, RWA pump, maybe Cardano's ecosystem, AVAX's ecosystem, Solana's ecosystem, just like we saw last cycle. But I think people are going to start to look around when the altcoin season is really in a frenzy and say, what narrative hasn't run yet? And people are going to look at the gaming tokens so suppressed from their all-time highs and be like, that is a good opportunity. And we just need one big catalyst to really swing the momentum into gaming tokens. So that's what I'm looking at this point in time. My strength coins I am the most dialed into, and then obviously lower size into those smaller picks like a Polis or Xborg, but I do think those will pay off nicely if the thesis plays out. So that is the video for today. If you enjoyed it, like the video down below, subscribe to the channel, of course, and I'll see you guys on Monday, just giving you guys a little weekend market update as I'm now home and fully locked back in. So I will see you guys on Monday. As always, play well, my friends, trade responsibly, and of course, stay bullish, my friends.